Jr. from Here For You Life Coaching. We're also going to talk about happiness and wealth as choices, because health is wealth and your mental well-being is wealth. So it's all a part of wealth. So happiness and wealth are choices, okay? But first, we're going to talk a little bit about work-life balance. So work-life balance, what does that mean? And how do we, look at that, and how do we achieve it? And more importantly, how do we know when we're getting tugged into one section or the other unknowingly? Okay, so one of the things that I work with professionals on is how to do work-life balance, because their work is so stressful, because their work pulls them into other realities. Okay, and when we say other realities, we say other states of mind. Okay, so this could be extreme stress. This could be not feeling like they have enough, so lack, not feeling like they have enough time, that kind of thing. So good morning, Jay. Good morning, Costas. So when that happens, how can they tell? Well, I had this one executive. She could not tell that she was being sucked into too much work. Okay, she felt like there was a lot of work, but she didn't recognize it for what it really was. So when we talk about work-life balance, let's go from the 50 percentile here. Okay, now let's say that this is work and this is life. This is your free time, this is your family time, this is your gym time, this is your me time, all of that over here. And this is work over here. So what was happening is, she was taking work home a little bit, right? So it would kind of go like this. Now there's more work, right? Because she was electing to take it home. Now, it was innocent enough because she just looked at it like she was catching up on her work, okay? But slowly, what happened is she started increasing that, and pretty soon, like if there wasn't enough time at the office, I thought, that's okay, I'll just take it home. Okay, now it was taking up more of her home time. So by the time she got over here, and let's call this 40%, or let's call this 60% here, 40% here. So now it's encroaching upon her me time, her personal time, her family time. Okay, when she got here, all she really was aware of was that her personal time was disappearing, because now there's just 40%, right? So maybe now there's just time to go home and cook and feed the family, whatever, and then have like an hour or so before she goes to bed, and then wash, rinse, repeat, start it all over again. But when she got here, her complaint was, well, I didn't go to the gym this week. I didn't, do this and that and whatever. Like, I didn't have any time for recreation this week. It was mostly work. Okay. Now, this stuff creeps up slowly. Okay. When you're here, it's important to catch yourself. Not everybody catches themselves. Why? Because they're focused on this reality. They're focused on the work. They're focused on the things that are going wrong, or the things that are increasing, that is adding stress to them on this side. Okay, so in this case, it was work. Okay, now what do you do when it gets like this? Well, now you start reminding yourself to go to the gym. Okay, because she was saying, well, I'll just skip the gym today, and I'll just catch up on work. So not only was she sacrificing her lunch hours at work, but she was taking work home. Okay, so now what happens is your reality shifts. Okay, it starts to shift from having enough me time and balancing work-life balance, and balancing it that way, to, oh, I don't have enough over here. Now it's going like this. Oh man, I'm going crazy. I'm like, there's just too much work. Okay, so the stress increases like that, and you'd be surprised how people cannot tell. So I had to explain it to her. I said, no, you're actually letting it drift more over here, okay? And now it's intruding into your personal time. And I said, what you have to do. So my question to her was, can you not answer emails and not answer phone calls or texts till the next morning? Because we had to put space between her and her job. And she was a high performance professional. So, her job was very, very important, and it was very stressful. And in the beginning, she was like, well, I really got to answer emails no matter what. And I said, yeah, but you need to put space between you and your work. Okay. Because we're at work for, half or more than half of our lives, okay, we're at work. That's just the reality. Okay. But we can balance. Okay. But because we're at work more, right, we think it's normal to like let it encroach on our personal time. Okay. Now, with the best of intentions, right? She was like, "Well, I can make up. I can gain some ground." And then she found out that no matter how much she did extra, the work would always come. There was always work. Okay. So that's the reality, is that work is always going to be there. Okay. Work will always be there, but the question is, how much are you going to allow it in to your personal time, to intrude into your personal time? So that's when you start going to the gym more. That's when you start deliberately pushing back this way. Okay, so if this is the center, this is the 50 percentile. Okay, now when things start going like this, okay, the gym is missing here. Okay, the trip to the museum is missing here. All those little me time things are missing here. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to put your foot down and you need to go, no, I'm going to go to the gym and push it back this way. No, I'm going to go to the museum or whatever you do in your spare time, that kind of thing, right? No, I'm going to make more karaoke time or whatever it is. Okay, and now you push it back. Okay, but when you have high stress jobs like you know professionals that have a lot of people to supervise or a lot of responsibilities, it's very difficult to catch yourself, to move yourself back, because all you really know is like you're super stressed out. Okay, so work-life balance is important in that way. Thank you, Costas. Thank you. And so as long as you become aware of it, and this is why a life coach or a mindset coach is very important, because then they can help you see what's wrong. A lot of times we can't see what's wrong, even myself. Okay, somebody has to look from the outside in and go, hey, this is like this. Can you see that this is like this? And sometimes I can't. And generally it's because I'm too involved in work. So it helps all the way around. So everybody could use some reminders. Everybody can use, a person on the outside looking in, going, "Hey, you're getting really busy," that kind of thing. So that's work-life balance. Now, as far as how does this play into manifestation? Okay, because this is mindset. Okay, now how does this play into a positive mindset or a negative mindset? Like, how does this fall into mindset? It falls into mindset because you need to dictate the rules. You need to establish your boundaries. Okay, boundaries is a big thing. It's a big buzzword now, right? But really, boundaries fall into place automatically. Okay, with affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization, because you go back into your natural state when you do that. When you meditate, when you take time to be still, when you do your affirmations, okay, what you're doing is you're actually ridding yourself of the negative emotions. Okay, stress, worry, irritation, disappointment, all of those things, right? Anxiety, that's another big one. So we find that when we rid our clients of anxiety, what happens is they automatically balance. So, our coaching is not about adding to people as much as it is taking away the negativity, taking away the stuff that doesn't work for them, taking away the stuff that's harmful to them, anxiety, stress, okay, grief, guilt, shame, those things, right? Because those things come back, they revisit us, and when they revisit, it's useful to, or actually, it's actually important to get rid of them, okay, to diminish these things, these feelings. So happiness, that brings us to your mood, right? So all the positive vibrations, okay, happiness is part of the positive vibrations. So the positive vibrations and emotional frequencies are love, peace, gratitude, joy, passion, excitement, enthusiasm, hope, and satisfaction. So those are the main ones. Okay. So happiness is all a part of that, which is rooted in love. all the positive emotions are rooted in love. All the negative emotions are rooted in fear. Okay, so just know that if you're experiencing a negative emotion, okay, so worry, irritation, disappointment, criticism, anger, hate, boredom, envy, despair, grief, guilt, shame, and fear, it's all rooted in fear because fear is the very bottom. Love is the very top. Okay, so things that are rooted in love are positive. Things that are rooted in fear are negative. Okay, now there might just be a little fear. So in other words, when you procrastinate, okay, that's I didn't mention that, but that's another one. Okay, we have an expanded list, but it's too long to go through. Um, but procrastination, when you're putting something off for tomorrow, or you're putting something off because you don't want to deal with it right now, just know that there's a little fear involved. Okay. Now, happiness and wealth, okay, the purpose of manifestation or deliberate manifestation that you can control, okay, because we're going to say it again that you manifest whether you think so or not. You don't have to believe in it, okay, whether you think so or not, whether you believe in it or not, you're manifesting all the time. So your actions are turning into results, they're giving way to results, okay, they're giving birth to results. So whatever actions you do are going to be your results. Okay, your choices, your results, your actions, your results. Now, when these actions are rooted in fear or rooted in lack, you could say it that way, right? There's lack over here, abundance over here. There's fear over here, there's love over here. Okay. But if they're rooted in lack, what happens is you don't get as good results, right? So, you know, wealth mindset is a mindset that comes from abundance. Okay, so this is important because you'll find that when you are generous, when you are giving, when you are loving, all of these things, these positive vibrations, these positive emotions, okay, they put you in a higher frequency. Now we're not talking about frequency as in, you know, resonance like in science. We're talking about frequency as in mood. Okay, so and people find that, wow, when I'm happy I get good results, like good things happen, right? And when you're not happy, right, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling low, when you're discouraged, that's another mild one, discouragement. Okay, so when you're discouraged, your results are not as good. So what is the key? The key is to be happy. Okay, so a lot of people have the misconception of happiness, right? They say, well, when I get that car, I'll be happy. When I get that house, I'll be happy. When I get that new pair of shoes, I'll be happy. Okay, but no, you have to have happiness first. Happiness comes first, then everything else. Okay, and this is the same concept as we keep telling you. Okay, the kingdom is in here. Okay, if you're happy in the kingdom, if you're happy in here, if you're peaceful in here, if you're loving in here, everything will be added unto you. If you're fearful in here, guess what? You're going like this. You're pushing it away. Okay? Hesitation, right? Hesitating. Like that. You're pushing it away. Okay? Doubt, you're pushing it away. Why? Because when you choose something or you desire something, okay, let's say you're desiring, let's say it's money, or let's say it's something, anything. It could be lunch. It could be something simple like that. Okay, it doesn't have to be something extravagant. But when you're desiring something, if you doubt it, it's like a cancel. It's like you're pushing a cancel button. Okay, cancel, right? So when you say, I would like an extra $100 this month, and then you think logically about it, right? And your logic will tell you, well, I work for a salary. I don't think I'm going to get any extra money this month. Boom, there you go. Now you've canceled it out. Okay, you cancel things out like that when there's doubt involved. Because now what you're saying is, I want it, but I don't think I'm going to get it. I would like it, but I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so that's why doubt is bad. Now, when it comes to manifestation, it's not so much that manifestation is an art form, but successful manifestation is to manifest what's good, or manifest better, okay, all you have to do is focus on eliminating the negative. You don't have to really focus on increasing the positive. If you eliminate the negative, the positive will automatically increase. Okay? So it's getting rid of the fear, it's getting rid of the doubt, it's getting rid of the negativity. Okay? Now, we've been taught to be negative. I mean, when you are negative, it's because you've had experiences of negativity. Okay? You've been let down before, so when somebody says, well, you know, um, yeah, I tried to do this, or I tried to get more money, and yeah, it didn't work, and so when you get let down a lot, right, you're judging from past experience. Okay, I'm here to tell you that you can change your experiences. Okay, you can change it, and you can change it overnight. Okay, how do you change it? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, it's just that people won't take the time to do it. Okay, if you take the time to do it, it cannot not happen. Okay, that's the way I say it. It cannot not happen. It has to happen. Why? Because your brain is wired that way. Human beings are wired that way. Okay, the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Everything is subconscious. The book of life is subconscious. Everything you touch, everything you see, everything you do, everything you speak, it goes into your subconscious. Now, it's not like you're able to recall everything you've ever done, but it's there. Okay? Now, the things that you do the most, the things you think of the most, the things you speak of the most, go into your subconscious and subconscious programs. Thank you, lady. Thank you. Nice to see you again. Thank you for being here. So it goes into your subconscious as programs, and then what does it do? Well, it's a program, so it repeats. It's a program, so it becomes a habit. So the subconscious is responsible for your habits, your actions, okay, what you're prone to do. Have you ever seen people that do the same thing over and over again? Right? They do the same thing, the same kinds of things, okay? And it's because their subconscious has, number one, learned it, and number two, repeating it. It repeats it. So first it learns it, then it repeats it as a program. Now, the easiest way to understand this is to look at it like a computer. So the conscious mind, okay, is like an operating system, okay? So operating system. The subconscious, okay, is your hard drive where the programs are stored. And that's exactly what happens. Okay, that's exactly what happens. Programs get stored in the subconscious. Now, and then there's the superconscious, right? Or let's say consciousness, or God, or source, or we can put all of those things in under that label. But the subconscious, right, is formed between birth and 7 years old. That's your first paradigm. So if we look at the subconscious tree, the roots of the tree are your core beliefs, what you believe to be true. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, so this has nothing to do with morals or values or anything. This just has to do with what is. Okay, so if you believe whatever you believe, it's going to be in your subconscious. Okay, so the roots of the tree, okay, subconscious. Now, the paradigm is based on your beliefs. It's the way you see the world, the way you act in the world, your attitude in the world, all of those things are your paradigm. So your beliefs construct your paradigm. Now, your paradigm is responsible for your actions, because based on your attitude, okay, based on how you see the world, that's how you're going to act. And so the actions are the fruits of the tree way up here. So now we have the roots, your beliefs, which form the paradigm, which create the actions, which give you the results. Okay, it's that simple. So here's a good opportunity, right? The opportunity is we can program our subconscious to produce, right, actions, or to construct a paradigm which produces actions conducive to our goals. And let me show you what that looks like when you program the subconscious. So it looks like this. Okay, these are affirmations. This is not journaling. These are affirmations. Okay, so you put the date down. and then you put the date down like over here, and you write out your sentence. Okay, my handwriting is terrible. I have a thumbnail here that I use to play the guitar, so it always interferes with my writing. But it's important that you do it by hand. And the reason why it's important that you do it by hand is because then it goes into your subconscious. It goes into your memory. Okay, if you're just typing like this on a phone, or like that, it doesn't do that. Okay, it doesn't register with the subconscious. Okay, it'll register with what you see, it'll register the visual, but it won't register it like it does in writing. Okay, now the formula for memorizing something is write it once, speak it 3 times. So if you write it out once, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a song. If you're memorizing a song, write it out first and then read it through 3 times, and you will commit it to memory. Now I know somebody, some people, right? They tell me, well, I have a bad memory. You don't really have a bad memory per se, like most people don't. Okay, some people, yeah, okay, there are a few people, but the majority of people that say they have bad memories, okay, don't really have bad memories. They just get distracted easy. Think about it. Okay, there's a difference between not being able to remember something and then being distracted so that you don't think of it. Okay, there's a difference. So now, happiness and wealth as choices. Okay, so these are not things that you acquire. Okay, these are not states of being that are brought about by a result. Okay, these are choices that you can make. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to be happy overall. Okay, so instead of thinking like, I'll be happy when I get that raise, I'll be happy when I get that position, I'll be happy, and a lot of times when that happens, the feeling inside doesn't change. Okay, I'll give you an example. When I did my Waikiki show, I thought there was going to be some, accomplishment because, well, it was Waikiki, it was a big showroom, it was a big show, all of that. And when I got there, when I stood on the stage and looked out over the audience, I was like, wow, this is just a big baby party. This is just a big family party, because I had a wedding and party business. And when I stood on the stage in Waikiki, it was like standing on the stage in the rec center. There was no difference. There was no difference in the feeling. Okay, it was just a different place. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, and the reason I'm mentioning this, is because the way you feel in here is going to be the same. Okay, when we talk about that ladder of success, when we talk about, climbing the ladder, there is no ladder. Okay, it's an imaginary construct. Okay, there is no ladder of success. You don't climb the ladder of success. Okay, you achieve certain things, but there is no ladder of success. Okay, that's a visual. Okay, when you climb that ladder of success, there's no difference when you're there or when you're beginning. Okay, it depends on how you feel inside. Because you can climb that ladder, or let's say achieve something phenomenal, like a really high paying job, and still feel like crap inside. I know people like that. I also know people that have very high paying positions and have achieved a lot that feel really good inside. But they make it a point to feel good inside. Okay, happiness is a choice. Okay, wealth is a choice. Now, I'm not just talking about wealth as in money, okay, because there's 2 kinds of wealth. Okay, if you read Florence Scovel Shinn's book, okay, The Game of Life and How to Play It, she talks about the second kind of wealth. So the first kind of wealth is you save all your money, right? You live small, okay? You live with the bare minimum, but you put all your money in the bank, store up all your riches, okay? And then you become rich. And the potential for wealth is there, okay? Because wealth is your health, it's money, it's really a good relationship, it's all of that. So everything counts for wealth. But that's one way. What's the other way? The other way is when you honor God. The other way is when you acknowledge, okay, and you submit to the idea that God brings you what you need. I know so many people that believe in God, they go to church, they do all the physical world things. Okay, they do all that. They go to Bible study, they go to church, they go to music ministry, they do all these things. And then they're poor because they do not have this understanding. Okay. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, we said this yesterday. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, poor, poverty consists in feeling poor. Okay. When you feel poor, when you feel bad, when you feel whatever it is, okay, against whatever it is. So if you feel poor in relation to money, or if you feel, I don't know, small in comparison to whatever you're doing for a living, you know. But I'll tell you that even the rubbish man is important. Even the rubbish man is important. Why? Because if he doesn't pick up the rubbish for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you'll be worshiping him. Okay? You'll be worshiping the rubbish man. So everybody's important in society. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody is important. Okay? And you don't realize how important some people are until they're not doing their job, until whatever circumstances happen that they're not there, or until we have an emergency and they're the people that come to help. And then you go, wow, thank God for these guys, right? Okay, so now, getting back to the, imaginary stuff that we see in life, okay, the ladder of success, imaginary, okay, but wealth is built from a bunch of things. But all of these things that wealth is built from is based on feeling. Okay, I know some people that don't have very much money, but they feel wealthy. Okay, guess what? Things come to them. Things come to them easy. Okay, because wealth is not just money, like I said. Okay, they're healthy. Things just come to them. So the first way, right, is store up all your money, live small, deny yourself, right? And then, I don't know, maybe at the end of your life, you're going to give it to somebody, But the other way is when you acknowledge God or whatever, whoever you believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe or how to believe, okay? But when you acknowledge that there is a power bigger than yourself that provides for you, okay? And one of the bits of evidence that I have for that is that even the cats at the park eat. There's this park that I go to here in Hawaii. And I go to this park, and these two ladies come to feed the cats every morning. And they feed them canned food. Like canned food, okay? And they come, and these cats eat like kings. They eat like kings, right? They eat the best cat food, not dry food. They eat canned food, okay? And how is this? Well, it's because everything comes from God through others. Okay. Everything comes to us through others from God. Now, if you subscribe to that idea, or if you subscribe to that thought, you're going to find that, yeah, this does happen. Because there are some times where you can't explain how you got something, and it just showed up, right? One of those coincidences. So either you have a choice. You can look at life like a bunch of random coincidences, like, oh, I just live a life full of coincidences, right? Or I live a life that God provides what I need. So there's two kinds of action, okay? When you take action on something in manifestation, right? Ask, believe, receive, okay? First you ask, then you believe in the asking, and then you receive. When you get intuitive thought, okay, so a lot of times you're asking for an answer. You believe in what you're asking, you receive the answer, and sometimes that answer is intuitive. Okay, most of the time it is. And you just get that answer. Now, when you get intuitive thought, you need to act on it. You need to do something about it. And when you act, it depends on your mood. Okay, those emotional frequencies we're talking about, emotional states of mind. When you marry intention with emotion, you get manifestation. It starts to take place in the physical world. This is not magic, this is your subconscious. Okay, so what happens is when you take action or take the baby steps, I call it baby steps, there's two ways to do that. You can take action in thought. And if you really want to, see someone who discusses it and talks about that in that way, there's Esther Hicks is one of them that talks about it. She calls it the vortex. She says everything that is yours is in the vortex. Everything that was meant for you is in the vortex. And all you have to do is think about it for 16 seconds and let it go. 16 seconds. So what are you doing? You're taking action, but you're taking action in thought. Does thought produce vibration? Oh yeah. Okay. So thinking about something is taking action on it. When you release the thought, okay, if you're thinking about the thought over and over and over and over and over, okay, it's gonna just burn it out. So you don't need to ask God for it all the time. You don't need to pray all the time. You don't need to pray for it every day. Pray for it, allow it to leave, let it go. It will show up. I've tested this so many times. And as a result, a long time ago, I decided that I was just gonna live my dreams. Because I had a mentor that sat me down and showed me all this stuff and then showed me evidence of it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I started on my journey, and I saw these things come out like this, I was like, wow, good morning, Manuel. Good morning. And I was like, wow, this really does work. But the reason why people don't see it is because they're too busy. They're too distracted. If the world wasn't moving as quick as it was, if we didn't get, now we have these. We have news in real time. Okay, in the old days, we had to wait till 6 o'clock to get the 6 o'clock news and then the 10 o'clock news at night. Okay, now we get the news right away as it happens. Okay, so it's easy to get distracted. It's easy when I want to say, when there's a dilution of the pool, okay, or a dilution of this energy, which requires some concentration, which requires some focus. When you're going to manifest something, you need to focus, but then you need to let it go. So that's what Esther Hicks talks about, 16 seconds, precision focus, and then letting it go. The way I discuss it is I put a little bit more to it. So it's affirmations, it's meditation, vocalization, visualization. Esther Hicks is visualization. Okay, so you visualize it, ask, believe, receive. And you don't have to do much. And at first when I saw her present this stuff, I said, no, this lady's crazy. This is way out there, like way out there. And then I decided to give her a second chance. And I went back and I watched another video on YouTube. This was years ago. And I started listening carefully. Instead of watching the video, I closed my eyes and I started listening to her. I started paying attention. And the closer I paid attention, the more real it became. Because everyone has their own perspective, okay? Everyone has their own perspective. Even about God, even about everything, okay? And when you understand that there's more than one way to something, there's more than one way to get something, there's more than one way to understand something, there's more than one way to perceive something, that's where it starts to change, because you're an individual. You're not going to be like the next guy. You're not going to manifest like the next guy. Okay, some people have it really, really easy. You know why? Because they hardly doubt, they hardly fear. Hardly. Everybody does have fear. Everybody. Okay, I don't care how big and bad you think you are, but yeah, there's moments when things scare you. Okay, but we have fear for a reason. It's there to tell us that there's danger, it's there to tell us something's wrong. Okay, it's like spidey senses, right? It's there to tell us something's wrong. But when you can use manifestation, and when I say use, I mean dictate it. When you can dictate what goes, okay, like I showed you with my writings, you write it down. You can tell your subconscious precisely what you want it to do, and then let it go. And when I started doing this, it takes a while. It takes a couple of months to get going. So the first thing I have my clients do is write down 100 positive I ams. Positive I ams about yourself. I am loyal. I am a good husband. I am a good wife. I am a good sister. I am a good brother. Whatever. If you're suffering from low self-esteem, you know. Okay? Do some I ams. Just write it down. You know, I am generous. I am kind. All of those things. So all of the good things about you. Now, even if it's not true, at the beginning, okay, this is what people don't understand about the subconscious. Sometimes you have to act as if. Okay, so acting as if means maybe right now you're not generous. Maybe right now, maybe somebody hurt you. Maybe of you. And then now you hesitate, right? So now you're not that generous. But as you write, I am generous, you will become more generous. That's how the subconscious works, and this is why you have to act as if. When you act as if, the subconscious receives the message and goes, oh, I'm generous? Oh, generous? That's what we're doing? Generous? And then it starts to act out generous or generosity. Okay, if you're not loving, it's a message, and you will start to become as you write. Okay, now, with affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization, you have to visualize being generous. You have to vocalize being generous. You have to say, I am generous. I am so happy and grateful now that I feel generous. I am so happy and grateful now that I am generous. And slowly you will become generous. So when you act as if, you're actually teaching your subconscious. And that's why I say act as if. Because you're not necessarily there yet, okay? But you're acting as if. If you act as if life is easy, or life is, it's not a big serious issue, right? That's what life will become. If you act really serious towards life, right? When something goes wrong, you're going to suffer serious consequences or serious circumstances. Why? Because you have that white knuckle grip on your life. I need to do this. I need to do that. You're pushing here. You're pushing there. You're demanding your own way, like that. That's why in the Bible, right, in 1 Corinthians, it says love does not demand its own way. Why? Because God is love. And in God's way, everything is natural. You were born into love. Your natural state was love. When you were born, your energy was love. Before everything happened, before life happened, before people took advantage, before you fell down and got hurt, before all these experiences. So your first paradigm was 0 to 7 years old. Okay, at 7 years old, you slowly become consciousness, a part of consciousness. But until then, you're just absorbing data. Your subconscious is just absorbing data. You're taking in everything you see, everything you hear, everything you touch, everything you taste. Okay, When you pick up those crayons and you bite into those crayons when you're 5 years old in kindergarten or whatever. Yeah, you're absorbing data. And a lot of those years stay with you. A lot of those things and those judgments and those feelings and the way that you perceive things from 0 to 7 stay with you in your main paradigm. So it's very important to be kind to your children. It's very important to be loving to your children. It's very important to give your children good experiences. Because when you're harsh on your children, guess what happens? Your children will grow up harsh. Okay? They will judge things harshly. They will start to act out what they learned from 0 to 7. You can change part of it. You can't change all of it. It's not like you can overhaul it. Okay? You can add to it. And when you add to it, they can be counter beliefs. They can go against what you originally believed. Okay, so let's say you think, money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, and it's not only about money. Okay, it could be about love, could be about anything. Okay, but let's say, money is hard to come by. Maybe that's your original belief. Now, if you write a counter to that, okay, the opposite of that, I am so happy and grateful now that money is in abundance. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes easily, plentifully, and quickly. Now, after you write it, okay, affirmations, meditate on it, meditation. Speak it, vocalization. Visualize it, visualization. When you do these 4 things and you apply it, apply these 4 pillars to that one thing, you will believe it faster. Okay, that's why we do the 4 pillars. Okay, that's why this is not just affirmation class. That's why this is not just meditation. Because these 4 pillars cover everything. Now, this is really good and useful when you want to change something in your life. If you're happy the way your life is, then you don't even have to watch this live. It's wasting your time. But if there's something you want to change, now that's different. Okay, but I'm here to tell you that you're a computer. Okay, the computer mirrors us. Okay, your operating system, your hard drive, your data. Okay, and every once in a while you got to clear the cache, right? You got to get rid of all the junk. You got to get rid of the unnecessary addresses and unnecessary page visits. And you can do that. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. But that's what it's for, because you have the power. Okay, God gave you the power. You were made in God's image. Okay, now if you believe differently, okay, just skip that part. Okay, but I have a lot of Christians on my accounts, and we have a huge international account, and we have a huge Facebook account. Okay, and a lot of Christians are there. But it's how you process this information. For example, Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. Okay, we've been taught that. What do most people believe? Well, they believe he's up in the clouds in heaven somewhere. I actually talked with this lady like about a month ago, and she was telling me, oh no, Jesus is in heaven. And I said, yeah, true. And she said, no, he's going to come back. And I said, you mean he's going to come back through the clouds? Is that what you believe? Is that how you believe? She goes, yeah, he's going to come through the clouds and save us. I'm like, okay. But that's what she believes. She actually believes that. Her church teaches that. Okay. So, but esoterically, here's what they're talking about. Just so you know. And you can go fact check me. You can go look this up. You can go study this. Because it's deeper than the fairy tales that you're being told. It's much deeper than the fairy tales you're being told. Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. It's making reference to the right hemisphere of your brain. That's where creativity lives. That's where God lives. That's where Jesus lives. That's where intuitive thought comes from. That's where imagination comes from. Is God imaginary? No, God is very real. God is very real. But God lives in the right hemisphere of your brain. The left brain is logic. And let me tell you how that works in manifestation. Okay? Because I got so good at manifestation, I used to write an affirmation for $5,000, and it would happen in about 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. But it would show up in the form of contracts. We had a wedding and party business. I've had tons of businesses over the years. I still do. We have 4 companies that are active, and tons of websites. But the way that it worked out, right? So I would write the affirmation, and I would let it go. And in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, contracts would show up, and I would either come close to that 5,000 marker, or I would be a little bit over that 5,000 marker. Now, even if I remember doing 3,000 once. I wrote an affirmation for 5,000. I hit 3,000. You think I was complaining? No, I was happy. I was happy because I didn't have the 3,000 to start with, right? But this is just thinking. This is just thinking and writing. How does that work? Well, the superconscious, God, the superconscious works with the subconscious. Once the subconscious believes it, the superconscious assists. It opens the doors. As you take the baby steps, it opens the doors. Then what? Then it brings the right people in place, the right things, and in my case, it was customers. It brought the right people in place, signed the contract, paid me. There you go, done. Okay, but the right and the left hemisphere of the brain, it's important to understand what they do. Okay, so you get inspired thought by the right side. Okay, Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, so you get this intuitive thought. Okay, you can call it Jesus, you can call it God, you can call it source, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But that's where you get it from. Then what happens? Well, then you need to be careful because your left brain, the left reptilian brain, will start to give you, reasons why you can't accomplish it. Because the left brain is logic. And so the left brain, right, begins to rationalize you out of your dreams. How does that work? Well, let's say you get an idea. Let's say you're walking through the mall and you see a product and you go, I could invent one like that. And you come up with an idea and it triggers an idea. Now you have the idea and you go, I think I'll start a business. I think I can do this product. I'm going to start a business. Okay? Now you start thinking about it, right? And this is why when you get intuitive action, intuitive thought, you need to take action. The left brain takes over, right? So you get that idea, okay, I should start this business, I should do whatever. The left brain goes, well, you remember what happened the last time you got an idea? Okay, logic, okay? It will logically coaching clients that are like this. Like, that's what I do. I do executive coaching, executive mindset coaching. And I have tons of clients because they're so logical, because they're so smart, because they rely on college. It's a little quieter, okay? Why? Because the logic side is used every day. Processes. If you look at Orville and Wilbur Wright, okay, these guys were strapping on wings and jumping off hills and doing everything to try to fly. Okay, those are not left brain actions. Really out there, doing some very out there things. That's all right brain activity. That's imagination. Okay, but your left brain will try to talk you out of it. Okay, so when you get intuitive thought, it's important that you take action. And you want to take action because if you don't, or if you delay, your left brain, the logic side, okay, the logical hemisphere of your brain will start to rationalize you out of your dreams. it'll start thinking about it. It'll start telling you, well, you remember the last time you tried to start a business, you remember you failed, remember that? Or you remember you didn't follow through on this, you remember you didn't follow through on that. It'll give you reasons. It'll give you reasons. And when it gives you reasons, it will point against everything the intuitive side is telling you. It counteracts, but it counteracts in logic. Okay? And because you think, oh, that makes sense, right? I know a lot of people that say that. They go, that makes sense. I say it too sometimes. That makes sense. Why? Because we rationalize it with the left hemisphere. That's why it makes sense. And slowly, the left brain rationalizes you out of your dreams. Okay? If I paid attention to the left hemisphere of my brain, I wouldn't have lived half of the dreams that I lived. And because of manifestation, because it was shown to me how to do it, and I was like, oh, okay. And it's very simple. It's everything I'm telling you. You don't need to hire me. You don't need to go to the website. There's no course to buy. There's nothing to buy. Okay, I'm here as a public service, but I'm here to tell you that the projection, that projection happens from within. Okay, your life projects from within like this. It happens for you. Life doesn't happen to you. Okay, if life is happening to you, then yeah, you're suffering from victim mentality, because then you think life is happening to you. All these things happen to you, and all you're doing is dodging bullets. You're dodging things. Stepping out of the way, kind of hiding from stuff that's just randomly happening. But this is all a part of that second type of wealth. The kind of wealth where you don't worry about it, it's just going to show up. And guess what? It shows up if you allow it. How do you allow it? You get away from doubt and fear. If something is making you fear, you distract yourself to get away from it. Okay? If you're thinking, or you get a thought like, oh, the rent's due, and then it's like, where am I going to get the money from? Distract yourself at that moment. Just say stop. Say stop, and then focus on something else. Because when you do that, you're taking your mind off of fear or out of fear. Doubt and fear are the two things that will just, it'll paralyze you. Okay, and I'm sure we've all been there before, right? With fear paralyzing. Why? How does it paralyze? It paralyzes you because you can't make a decision. Because you're afraid to choose this way, because this might happen. You're afraid to go over here because that might happen. And now you're fearing. And it's the left brain that's doing that, not the right brain. The right brain will give you variations on a theme. Okay, but once you're in fear state, your imagination gets carried away. Then it starts giving you the variations on a theme. Okay, but the doubt will always come from the left side, because the right side is creative. The left side is logical. There's this one client that I have right now. He's an executive client. He's a business client. And it took me so long to teach him that as you take the steps towards whatever it is you want, the doors have to open. And it took a while. And now he gets it. And now he's just taking consistent steps. Okay? And there used to be a time where, like, every 2 weeks he would crash. And I mean, feel defeated, crash. Okay? Like, why am I doing this? Like, when do we quit? That kind of thing. Okay? And it's normal. This is normal. It's especially normal for someone who depends on the left side of their brain, the left hemisphere, the logic. Okay? And I see highly educated people have the most problems with this. Okay, people that, maybe just went to high school, maybe had a couple years of college, like, they have an easier time with it because they haven't been indoctrinated as much. Okay, but when you get indoctrinated, right, when it gets really thick and you're really indoctrinated bad, right? What do you rely on? You rely on logic. Where does Jesus live? He doesn't live at the left side. Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, the right hemisphere of the brain. That's where you get intuitive thought. Okay? That's where you get the messages and information that you need to be successful, to combat stress, to overcome, right? To overcome the rationalization that will rationalize you out of your dreams so that you can live your dreams. You know, how many times I've heard people go, well, you know, I just made a commitment and I don't know what possessed me to do it. I just did it, and then boom, it happened. Because they got intuitive thought, they acted on it, and the rest, as they say, is history. You don't have to know how. The how is God's job. I don't know how. I never knew how. I still don't know how. I don't know how I'll put my companies together. I just said, okay, we're going to commit to this. We're going to do this. And we just took the steps. Now, granted, a lot of times when you do that, like anything else, there's going to be learning curves. There's going to be steps. There's going to be failures. But failure is a part of success. Failure is a very integral part of success. If you're not failing, or let's say it another way, if you're afraid to fail, if failure is hanging you up, the idea of failing, then you're afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, it will hold you back from your success. So don't be afraid to fail. Ask, believe, receive. And if you really believe in God, if you really believe God is a thing, if you really are putting your faith in God, then you're walking by faith and not by sight. You're walking by spirituality and not by the physical world or the parameters that you see being set up by commerce or the physical world or anything. Education, oh, there's a way to do this. There's a way, and then there's God's way. There's man's way and God's way. And you need to walk by faith and not by sight. And lady, thank you. Costas, thank you. And it's time to go. It's 8 a.m. in Hawaii. So anyway, this live gets done every morning at 7 a.m. Hawaii time. We'd like to thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'd like to thank you guys so much for being here on our international feed. We're going to say goodbye now, but